Well, let me first introduce myself, if there is anybody new that doesn't know myself. My name is Marco Cardelli. I'm Workload Automation Product Manager, work together Emanuela in the same team. I have been working many years on these products. Formerly, I was the architect of the Z solution, and after moving from IBM to HCL, I started as product manager on both distributed and mainframe. And I'll give the stage to Emanuela to start the presentation and introduce herself.
Thank you, Marco. As Marco said, I work with him. We are in the same team. We both work on the distributed and mainframe version of the product. For today, I will introduce you where we are, in particular, what is happening out there and how we place. So I will then leave the word to Marco for the future part. So just to set a little bit the context so that you can better understand how and why, especially, we are evolving, as we will show later. Well, in general, and I guess you can see this in your everyday experience, we can see that automation tools are evolving. They are not just, bodied for batch scheduling, but actually what you do every day with this platform is, of course, trying to automate more and more end-to-end processes. This is kind of a trend that is, of course, validated by analysts too. So it's a cross-market trend. We can see, for example, that they do not talk anymore about just batch schedulers, but they talk about service orchestration and automation platforms. They talk about intelligent automation. There are, let's say, many trends that are kind of converging on one side, and on the other that needs to be somehow interconnected. For example, when you talk to companies, they tell you that they do automation, but they mean different things for automation. They mean DevOps, they mean RPA, they mean BPM, they mean, of course, also batch scheduling. But at the end of the day, what they need to do, what you need to do, is being able to interconnect all of these processes. So that's why at some point, the kind of trend was, let's stop talking about batch scheduling and start talking about orchestration of automation trend. And this comes, of course, along with other trends that are coming along with that. So, for example, there has been a huge switch in terms of technology, with Kubernetes taking more and more the stage. There is a greater use of public cloud, multi-cloud, and especially, at least for what relates to us and what we see, hybrid IT environments. A greater attention out there is also for AI, machine learning, so being able to use these insights smart to make automation even better. And of course, there is a pretty big race of cloud native applications and the need to integrate them with traditional application and infrastructure. Many of you are already aware of all of these changes. Many of you are already on their way for digital transformation. And so it's something that it's already happening, let's say. What we see is exactly what you can see kind of summarized in this chart. I mean, there are customers who still use legacy systems. Some are already on cloud. Some use a mix of the two things. Some are already looking at cloud native infrastructure. But at the end of the day, what we want to accomplish is being able to interconnect business processes with these platforms and these systems that are heterogeneous by their nature. But the kind of final target never changes. We want to avoid delays, to avoid errors, to avoid inefficiencies, of course, to spare on costs. So how can we, given this necessary approach to modernization, how can we respond to all of these changes? How can we enable this kind of transformation? Marco, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Well, you know that workload automation has evolved during the years. It's a pretty long story. but there are some strong pillars that are still there, that are stronger than ever, and that actually make our solution a next generation solution ready, also given the changes that we talked about. Three things to remember. What we allow to do is, of course, connect and de-risk with an ecosystem of integrations. During some of the other previous Tivoli User Group, we talked about the Automation Hub and all the plugins that are already available there. The idea is to let you extend the outreach of automation to different domains using, of course, these plugins. Second, we want to enable end-to-end orchestration and control business views by making modeling easy and giving you literally the power to model the kind of process as you want it to do and interconnect all of the related processes. And of course, we want you to be able to guarantee your SLA compliance, of course, on one side, and on the other, also being able to predict what is going to happen on the market, what is going to happen if some changes occurs. So literally ensuring you governance on the whole process. Or, as we are saying, being able to automate more and to automate better, which includes, of course, the chance to run the platform anywhere. Doesn't matter where you want to run workload automation. Is it on the mainframe? Of course, you can do that. Do you want to deploy it on OpenShift? You can do that. We are even certified and on the Red Hat catalog. You want to use a Kubernetes cluster by Amazon, Microsoft with Azure or Google Cloud, you can do that. So the idea is, whatever your need is, we got you covered. And Marco, please go a little bit there. Now, deep in dive, where are we now? This is a short recap of the main points about our latest version. The latest one is the 9.5.0.3, which was released in December. There will be a new version you will see with Marco by the end of June, so in 1 month from now, the 9.5.0.4. But these 6 things that you can see are still the main, as we call them, wows of the current version. First of all, and this relates to the digital transformation topic we were mentioning before, workload automation is still the only automation solution that is full containerized. When I say full containerized, I mean that the engine is available on container, the WC is available on container, and of course the agents are available on containers. Second, we want you to orchestrate your business critical process and interconnect them. It's the Automation Hub main message that we were talking about before. Third, mainframe is still relevant to us. It's something that we still invest on. We want to make it even more accessible, so we really worked hard on the Zoe part to make it even more and more accessible. We improved our dashboards, especially to give you the power to really focus on what matters, so making them even more and more customizable, and so being able to select just the KPI you care about. As you know, we worked on folders, so giving you the power to delegate business control. And let's say that what we saw is that in general, all the improvements, enhancements, new features we introduced with the current version, of course, contributed to lower the TCO for the product. So this was just a sort of summary and recap. Now, let me just give you a few more focus before leaving the word to Marco, because I just mentioned that we invest heavily on this kind of run anywhere concept. Actually, in general, we invested in 2 areas when it comes about digital and cloud transformation. First, making you able to deploy workload automation on a cloud of your choice, whatever it is. We don't care. It could be literally OpenShift. It could be we were mentioning Azure AKS, Google JKE. It could be Amazon EKS. whatever is your favorite deployment method, we got you covered, literally, and certified. But on the other side, one thing that we saw out there is that, of course, if you are using many of these cloud services, you might want to be able also to orchestrate cloud processes. So if you look at the Automation Hub, you will find that there are lots of plugins related, for example, to AWS, to Google Cloud, Azure services, and more. So the idea is, if you're running something on one of these or more of these public cloud services, you might want to be able to have some of those processes as part of your bigger automation processes. So we enable you to manage your cloud applications locally or remotely by using these plugins. Any questions so far? Okay, then just a couple more things. One is about the Automation Hub. I took for granted that all of us are on the same page, but just to recap, the Automation Hub is the catalog of integrations we got publicly available at the address you can see at the bottom of these slides. On the Automation Hub, you will find plugins, you will find dashboard templates, and of course, you will find even samples and more. It's something that uses a continuous delivery approach. So actually, every time we talk, there are more and more plugins compared to the last time we met. In 1 year, because we launched the Automation Hub at the end of March 2020, we more than doubled the number of plugins available there. Now there are almost 80, and there were 35 at the beginning. Yes, if you look at the areas they relate to, you can, let's say, group them in two big areas, both of them, of course, very close to workload automation. One is the IT automation areas, and there are a bunch of plugins that actually are part of this area and let you automate IT processes in particular. So all that relates to cloud automation processes that we were mentioning before, containerization, serverless automation, and more. And on the other side, intelligent process automation that relates more to the business side. So you can find plugin for ERP, especially SAP and Oracle. You will find plugin for RPA, managed file transfer, and more. So the idea is to literally keep you in control of all of these processes and being able to interconnect them. Any questions so far? Now, since I know that some of you are mainframe customers, we wanted to have a little focus on how to deploy these plugins on the mainframe. Marco, do you want to take it?
Thank you. Thank you, Emanuela. I will explain a little bit how mainframe customers can leverage these integrations. So which are the components that are mandatory to use for being able to deploy and use these integrations. Basically, of course, these are, we are talking about an end-to-end configuration, and it's a decentric end-to-end configuration. This is not supported with FTAs. So you need, of course, the IZWS controller, decentric agents, and most likely you need the dynamic workload console. Why I say most likely? There are a few older plugins that are supported also with the keywords specified, the job rec keywords specified in the JCL, but we tend right now to use for the new plugins only the definitions through the dynamic workload console, because it's much easier and takes also less development time to just deploy a new plugin automatically, also with the panels in the web user interface. Now, you need the dynamic workload console basically to define the jobs, because you get ad hoc panels with the job types, specific job types. So you can use the UI just to define the parameters that you need to submit that job, to submit that application. And that's all you need as mandatory components. The dynamic workload console, you can use it also for deploying the plugins. So basically, you should know, I mean, that with next version of the product, most of the plugins will be available only on the Automation Hub, because the number of plugins is increasing. As you have seen, we have more than 70. We don't want to deploy all of them in the standard installation to make it too heavy, you know, both for agents and the dynamic workload console. So what we decided to do is that if you want a new integration, you can download directly the plugin from the link that you get in the Automation Hub. Then if you are a Z customer, I mean, it was already available for distributed customers, but from 9.5, I believe Fixpack 2, if you are a Z customer, you can download the plugin you want to use in a folder in the Z connector, the part of the dynamic workload console installation, and have it automatically deployed to the agents that need to execute those jobs. So you don't need to deploy manually the plugin to every agent where you want to execute those jobs. But at the first job execution of that type, the Z connector will send the plugin to the decentric agent. So this is automatic now. So these are the three components you need. Then there's the possibility, optionally, to use a dynamic domain manager. Why would you want to do that? For example, if you want to manage pools of agents rather than having direct decentric agent one-to-one communicating with the controller, you can have pool of agents that would connect only directly to the dynamic domain manager in one direction only, and that becomes a little easier when you want to bypass, when you need to open firewalls, for example. So basically, if you want to install your decentric agent or your dynamic agent in a cloud environment, we have a customer that is right now configuring this, using this configuration to manage AWS workloads from a Z controller. So they want to use the containerized version of the agent that is available both for dynamic agents and decentric agents, and they want to make an easy deployment on Kubernetes platform. So it's easier for them to open just one port, you know, to the from, and having the agents communicating towards the dynamic domain manager rather than the vice versa. So if you want to use pools of agents, if you want to have an easy access through firewalls, then dynamic domain manager can be your answer. We are also doing some enhancements that will be delivered very soon for this kind of scenario. So I encourage you to consider it if you want to use, if you want to manage cloud environments from a Z mainframe point of control. Having said that, just a few words for mainframe customers specifically. It is very important that we open the mainframe to the external world. So this is one of the key messages for us for investing on the mainframe platform. Basically, we are investing a lot in features that allow you to easily access the mainframe from outside, from, in some cases, as it was just another cloud environment. I'm talking specifically about the open source Zoe. I'm not sure if any of you knows about it. It's a tool, it's an open source tool that is actually supported by IBM, but it's a multi-vendor initiative. And this open source tool allows you to easily connect to the mainframe in a way that is very similar to any other cloud environment. And we are integrated with IZWS in the command line with our REST APIs, and we're doing more and more in the future. We are even certified for this Zoe solution. Then, of course, the UI can enable self-service automation and all these new features that allow you to manage even containerized application from the mainframe. The decentric agents can be deployed on container, can be deployed on Kubernetes. So we have lots of features that allow you to connect your mainframe environment to the distributed world, to the cloud environments. And we want to enable you to use, to manage also your cloud environments from the mainframe. Just a quick recap of what we have done in 9.5, basic feature that was specific, let's say for Z. We allowed an integration with a component that is called a Common Data Provider that allows you to forward logs, new logs created ad hoc for IZWS to analytics engines. So Splunk and Elasticsearch are the most popular that are supported. So that is one of the features we delivered. Workload optimization, we delivered some global policies to optimize the submission of the jobs. Not sure if any of you has tried one of these features. I know it's something tough to configure because everybody's scared about changing how jobs are submitted and maybe scared to use the new feature. But let me tell you that there are many different ways to use it, not only based on critical jobs definitions. That's something that can be automatic, let's say, automatically managed by the product. But there is also, for example, the possibility to just tune with a command the submission rate of the workload in the controller. So basically, there's a command that you can use on the mainframe where you can tell how many jobs the controller can submit in a certain amount of time. So, for example, in a moment where you can see that there are long queues of jobs to be executed, you can decide to slow down the submission a little to relieve the system, or you can increase the velocity if you need to. That's just an example of workload optimization. Then we added additional time specifications to allow you to customize in your own way late jobs and long duration and so on, so that you can use new defined fields, the operation input arrival time, or you can define your own deadline or your own late time, and decide when you should receive an alert for a job that has not started or for a job that has not completed, and even decide some automatic actions. So that was another, let's say, orchestration capability that we increased into the IZWS controller. Moreover, all the features that I already mentioned that are in common with the distributed world and that are becoming more and more important for customers. By the way, you can now install the dynamic workload console on ZOS directly. It prereqs Liberty on Z, but you don't have to pay for that because it's a supported program. So even though it's not included into the product, but you can use Liberty on Z for free to support the dynamic workload console. Moreover, we are also in the process of certifying the support of containers on ZOS. So that is something new that came with the latest version of the operating system and of the hardware. So it prereqs an hardware feature that is called ZCX. And with that feature, you can support containers directly on ZOS. And we are certifying our dynamic workload console and Z-centric agents to be deployed on container on ZOS. So you will be able even to deploy the dynamic workload console on Docker container on ZOS. So let's take briefly a look at what we delivered in the latest fix pack. It was in December, a fix pack on distributed fix pack 3 and NSP 3 on ZOS. You know, probably if you have seen or are already using the DWC 9.5 that we delivered new dashboards. I hope you like them. We try to develop them so that they are easy to customize. I hope you agree with that, but I'm sure I will get some feedback later on this. But apart from that, we now delivered with a new fix pack also alerting system for the widgets in the dashboards. I think this can be very handy for operators. This actually was a requirement that came through during the interactions that we do when we design features. So basically, now there's the possibility to configure alerts on the KPIs on the dashboards, and you can do that based on value change on the KPI or threshold values. So I think this can be very, very useful for operators in the dashboards. Then now we allow on the DWC 9.5 custom roles so that you can create a customized UI for each different role. Launching context is back with this fix pack. And now, as you probably know, it's possible to include in the dashboard external data sources. So you can put data from other products into our dashboard to concentrate the control also on our dashboard. And you can do that with REST API if that external product supports REST APIs, if they provide REST APIs, let's say. And now you can do that even if the data is in XML format. So we extended this part. Another important usability enhancement is that now it's very easy to import-export. It's possible to import-export dashboards. So it's easy to replicate them and exporting to other users. There's a lot of enhancement we did on the file transfer plugin. So the file transfer plugin is based on FTP protocols. There will be a dedicated presentation later on today, so I won't take much time on this. Let me just tell you that we have a dedicated detailed view for file transfer operation. We have a dedicated dashboard. It's available. There are lots of enhancements that will be illustrated. So parallel transfer, multiple parallel transfer executing in the same job, run from point of failure, and many other options available. And this is now available for the file transfer plugin. But keep this picture in mind, because it will I will show again this for something that is coming in next release. So these enhancements that will delivered in the latest fix pack are for the file transfer plugin available on the Automation Hub, and it's available for distributed Z and also for the software as a service solution. A few words related to the enhancement delivered specifically for the Z part. A new view, basically, there is list critical successor jobs. So if you are using critical jobs and that feature, you have a new view that you can use to learn if a job has an impact on any critical successor. So basically, if you are displaying a job from the DWC, you can use also REST APIs, the PIF interface, and also WAPL as an interface to get this list. Basically, you can ask for the list of critical successors for that specific job. So you can have an immediate glance at what are the impact on your SLAs. Then we provided a global parameter to, let's say, customize the usage of the operation input arrival time for the dependency resolution. So now, until this PTF is installed, if you specify an operation input arrival time, then it's using a planning time that will be used to resolve dependency. If you specify this global parameter, you can either ignore the operation input arrival time for the dependency resolution, so that only the application input arrival time will be used, or use it only when the operation is time dependent. So these are new options. These are basically particularly useful when you are migrating definitions from another scheduler, but they may be useful, I believe, for all customers. Another feature is a new EQQ admin class that can be associated to a RACF user ID. This is specifically useful when you, particularly when you use DWC installed on ZOS, because especially if you customize, if you are using the RACF LDAP on ZOS, also for the DWC, then you can basically use the same user ID for DWC, and being that also a RACF user ID. So in this specific case, with some customization of parameters, you can bypass the mapping that is needed normally in the user map file. So one user that is the same for RACF and for DWC. And obviously, all the RACF security will be directly applied to that user ID. Another small announcement, the job submission status, the one that you can customize globally for the submission, and you can have the different, so you can deactivate the job submission and deactivate for the end-to-end features. So now you can decide by setting these options in the JT or PTS parameters, initial parameter. You can customize an option so that when you recycle the controller, it will use the last value that was available when you stop the controller, and not restarting from the default value or what is customized in the other parameter. We recently delivered a feature to send an email when a few alert conditions that you can customize occur, and now we have extended the conditions to include the critical jobs status change. So if a critical job changes its status to be potential risk or high risk, you can customize an email to be sent to an appropriate list of users. And last, on the Zoe integration, we now support the JWT token for authentication. Now let's take the last 10-15 minutes of this presentation to talk about the future. As you can see, we delivered version 9.503 in December. We have a new fix pack coming up in June. It's going to be version 9.504, but it's not really a feature pack. So it doesn't include so many new enhancements. It's just minor enhancements or a few RFEs. But our focus now is, some of these enhancements are relevant. For example, if you are using the containerized version of the engine and you deliver it on Kubernetes environment, the integrations with Prometheus and Grafana dashboards, Prometheus metrics and Grafana dashboards, it can be very important, very useful. Some area improvements in the area of security, support for CyberArk authentication, keyclock, support for Z-Linux for the containerized version of the product, and support for new databases like 1DB, new version of DB2, Azure SQL, MS SQL 19. But basically, we are focusing in the development more on the new release of IBM Workload Automation. The new release is going to be version 10, and it will be delivered at the end of this year in fourth quarter. Then we have, of course, the roadmap of plugins, integrations, more integrations in the cloud area, more integrations in the file transfer area, because we want to allow you to integrate with external products if needed, more integration in RPA area. Here we mentioned WDG, now it's called IBM RPA, so this is in our roadmap for the third Q. But I want to give some important focus to the new release. First of all, I want to emphasize a few things. The new release will be version 10. We will still support FTAs, both on distributed and Z. So if any of you has this kind of fear, don't worry, our next release is still supporting both. For the Z version, really version 10.1 will be the last one supporting FTAs. Most of our customers are migrating to the decentric agents, and so we decided that with this one, we are not investing anymore on FTAs in mainframe end-to-end. So this will be the last release that will deliver FTAs. But you know, when we say this is a new release, it will be supported for many years. So don't be scared if you are a mainframe customer, you're still using FTAs, you have many years to consider upgrading to the Z-centric agents. On distributed side, there is no plan for now to deprecate the FTAs. So in that case, you don't have to worry at all. Let me talk about the new features. We will support with a new component delivered on container that is called AI Data Advisor. I didn't write here the name, but it's called AI Data Advisor. We want to leverage some AI algorithms to enhance your operational experience. And you will see in a moment how we want to do that. We want to use historical data, of course, of the workload execution to improve your operational experience. Optimize data transfer and processing. You have seen we are investing a lot on file transfer. And version 10 will be a very important step in this direction, because you will not only have the file transfer plugin, but you will be able to use our agents to move the file. So not FTP protocols, but agent-to-agent communication to move the files. So we call it internal file transfer. Then the third point is we are completely renewing the modeling part of the UI. You know, we are always enhancing the dynamic workload console because it has to become more easy to use, because we need to go, you know, along with the new technologies and make it more and more modern. So this time with version 10, we work on the modeling part. And so there will be a new workload designer with a single UI to develop your workflows. That means one single point of control for all the database objects. Not point of control, I meant a single point where you can define all your modeling objects. Let's see a few details about this strategy. AI. Everybody's talking about AI and machine learning. What we have now in the area of prediction is the SLA management. If you use critical jobs, the what if analysis, we have some analytics that we provide, reporting, and so on. What we can do with AI for workload automation? We are not implementing AI ops into the products. That is something that there are dedicated products. I believe later on, Xavier will give a presentation about what's an AI ops, and we don't, you know, do not plan to have any competition with that. We just want to provide a few scenarios that are important for workload automation users based on workload automation data that only our product can give you. There are two specific for general AI ops tools. In particular, anomaly detection and identification of patterns, noise reduction, which means reducing the number of alerts you get and reducing especially the false alarms, helping you with root cause analysis and self-healing for management of jobs, improve also the user effectiveness, which means help to define jobs, perhaps provide the templates, suggestion for feature or fields customization. These are long-term strategy. So these are the scenario where we want to use AI for workload automation. But with next release 10, we are going to work only on number one of this. So what we are doing with this new component that is will be our AI engine, we will work to provide anomaly detection on overall workload, general workload execution. So the overall workload, if there is anything that is going different from usual, we provide KPIs to, like, if there are too many jobs in ready status, too many waiting jobs, or jobs in error, all these KPIs will be compared to a similar day that you can customize. So you can decide if that day, in comparison with other similar days, you have something different going on in the execution of the workload, in being alerted if that is the case. So this is something that we will start working on with this new release, and we need your cooperation to test this new feature. This can be very helpful in your way to operate with the product, but we need your cooperation to tell us how this will work in your environment. It's based on historical collection of historical data, so you need the reporting feature enabled. But I think also for mainframe customers, I'm mentioning this. But you can get anomaly detection on overall workload, or you can decide to customize individual jobs for anomaly detection. So if you have some very important jobs, your milestones, you can decide to apply anomaly detection only to those, rather than to the overall workload execution. So anomaly detection and identification of patterns, this is our first step in using AI for the product, besides what we are already doing for prediction of job duration. Internal file transfer, so agent-to-agent file transfer. You will get the same UI that is already available for the file transfer plugin, but instead of executing the file transfer through FTP protocols or using integrations, because as you know, we support integration already with Sterling Connect Direct, while we have in plan to add new feature for new integrations for Axway and Sterling File Gateway. So rather than using integrations or FTP protocols, you can use our agents, dynamic agents or decentric agents, to move files. So this will be available both for distributed and Z. And I probably didn't mention all the features I'm talking about will be available both for distributed and Z customers. So this is really a new release in which all the features are for both products. And now just a few screenshots for the new Workload Designer. There will be a new search functionality. The graphical views will be improved and then integrated in the new Workload Designer. You will be able to edit, not graphically, but you will be able to edit multiple objects at the same time. The workload application template will be integrated in this view. There will be a new landing page for the Workload Designer. There will be also an improvement in the panels that are defined for the plugins for the new integrations. So this new technology will be beneficial also for the new integrations that we develop, and you even can develop yourself. There will be a new adaptive welcome page for the dynamic workload console that can be customized for different users. And also another important point that probably will come up with the first feedback. I'm not sure if it will be part of the GA of the product, but we will also integrate in this new Workload Designer the self-service catalog functionality. with a new updated UI also for mobile users. So that's all for the contents, high level for the new release. I am sure that we will be talking about this for a long later on this year, because there will be many more details. This is just a preview. And now let's open to if you have questions, or not sure if we should look at the chat or just open to the mic for questions.
There haven't been any questions in the chat so far.
Very well. I was just about to actually add a question to the chat. It's Gareth from John Lewis. I just wondered, is there any work going on regarding mainframe emulation and running IWS on that? Or are there any issues with running an emulated mainframe, including ZOS? Sorry, IWS.
I'm not sure I completely get the question,
that,
but
Control M, BMC, have a product, or they're offering a product that will tailor straight into an emulated mainframe.
Okay, no, no, we're not doing anything like that. I mean, okay, if you are a customer that needs or need to, leave the mainframe, we have, I think, two main trends. I can tell you that the number of customers on Z for us is increasing, but nevertheless,
yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is that if they're going to emulate ZOS off the MBS platform, then they're going to continue to use ZOS code and programs. So okay, I'm assuming that products like IWS or IMS or Kix should still work on these emulated mainframes. Now, I don't know of any company that's actually got anywhere near doing this emulation, but I know of several who are seriously considering it and spending money on looking into it.
Okay. We are not doing for now anything in this area, but I would be interested to, look at this possibility. And
like I said, I know the BMC are already in it, if you like. Whether they've actually won any business or not, I don't know, but they appear.
I wonder what would be the purpose. I mean, you would be the purpose is because you want to leave the mainframe, but you want to keep using the mainframe products in emulation.
That seems to be the idea now. Whether that's a good idea or not, I don't think it is. But
I don't think it is. I mean, basically, let me say this: there are customers who are still investing on the mainframe, and we are happy with those. That's okay. We will keep investing on the mainframe as well. So, for customers that are leaving the mainframe, we have a very easy migration to the distributed product. We have a tool to do that. It's very easy. So there's no reason to keep using the mainframe product on a distributed platform, because I don't think it would be as the performance wouldn't be the same.
Well, absolutely, I totally agree. So, I mean, like I said, I don't see the point of doing that, but it does appear to be kind of flavor of the month these days.
Yeah, we actually have the opposite trend. So we are supporting containers on ZOS.
Excellent. Perhaps I'll have some work in the future.
Yes, and please, contact me if you need any information specific on any of these topics, or if you want to have a discussion on this.
Hey, Gareth, sorry, Xavier here. I wanted to add just a word. So I've been on a couple of projects which in which case the customer wanted really to, or had decided for whatever reason to leave the mainframe. Of course, I mean, as you can imagine, these are not the projects that receive the most, I mean, the heaviest advertising inside IBM for obvious reasons.
Absolutely,
But it still exists. But regarding to your question, so Marco covered the topic of transforming the definition, that is the flows, so that a sequence, I mean, in the, as it is described on the IWS Z mainframe, is reproduced inside the IWSD scheduler, and that's a topic. In those cases, we also had another discussion, or a robust discussion is needed with the providers of the emulator. You know, I mean, typically these emulators, I mean, there are several providers of emulators, and they take different design decision to which depth they emulate the mainframe, how they interact with it, and I must say that I have found really a great variability of situations there. So your question was what? Was it to
could you just lift, and shift your IWS from the mainframe to the emulated mainframe, or would there have to be extra work done, as you seem to be suggesting, depending on which emulator you're using?
What I've seen is that there is an extra piece of work to understand the way jobs are transformed and the way jobs are mapped to the other side, especially in terms of passing parameters and reflecting the state of the execution. But I must say that's a kind of one-off work, because once this has been decided for that particular emulator that the customer has chosen, then all the jobs follow the same path, typically.
Absolutely,
But
I guess that depends also on the applications. I mean, if you are abandoning the mainframe, but you want to, you don't want to change the applications that you are using. I mean, there should be an overall process. If you are, all your applications are moving to distributed platform, then you can move also the scheduling part to the distributed platform. But if there was your applications are still on the mainframe, I mean, obviously from a performance point of view, it's better to execute them on the mainframe.
Yeah, I totally agree.